Mr. Des Jardin. Okay, my name is Xeni Jardin. First,
nice.
Are we related?
We may be.
Xeni Jardin for Boing Boing Video, and I'm here at the Apple Store in Santa Monica, where we're going to meet the director and special effects supervisor of The Watchmen.
Watchmen, one of us died tonight.
Boing Boing Video is a show that goes out to a lot of people who are into technology and graphic novels, and a lot of these people are pretty hardcore fans of Alan Moore. I mean, you know what rabid fanboys are like. Was there a point at which you felt we might be committing heresy here?
No, I actually never felt that. In fact, having the graphic novel with us all the time, we were pulling stuff out of it all the time, you know, and so I never felt like we were trying to, you know, cross-cut something in the graphic novel, anything like that. We certainly shot everything that's in it, you know, it's all there, you know, in either the theatrical or the DVD, you know, it's all a part of the story. So I think we did okay.
What was the biggest storytelling challenge that's different about telling this complex tale in film versus in the graphic novel?
I think it's a mixture of obvious things like Dr. Manhattan, who is an all-CG character and probably hard to do a long time ago and easier to do now, but still a challenge to make it sustainable for the entire length of a film. But also just thematically creating the alternate America, you know, the alternate world that we see in the movie, because it's kind of like what you're used to seeing, but it's still got enough difference. That's what you see in the graphic novel, and those are the things that we had to try to pull out visually from Dave Gibbons' artwork and put into the movie, and you know, we did our best.
Crash through you, the pale princess of a palace crack.
Recreation draws from the time in which it's developed. I'm wondering if, like, some of the events of the past 4 or 5 years since this project began have affected how this retelling looks and feels.
That's an interesting thought, because I know when we're making it, we really were determined to make it a period piece. Because when you first read the graphic novel, like I did in '87, it's very current, and now, yeah, maybe it's dated because it was 20 years ago, but there's a lot of stuff that still feels fresh. So even while we were making it, you know, some of the hairstyles and the outfits and everything else, and even the buildings, New York's a different look, you know, back in '87 than it is now. It still felt pretty fresh. So I personally can't answer that question. You'll have to go to it and see it and say, hey, wait a minute, I think I see some, you know, some kind of thread in terms of what's going on now. But I actually think what Zach says is true, that by being true to the period, people can bring their own ideas about what's going on now to the film.
So a lot of people said that this was going to be an unmakeable movie, right? That the graphic novel was so complex, so vast, like nobody could do this right. What was it like dealing with that kind of heavy weight going to this project?
Well, yeah, I don't think anybody making it really thinks about that when you're making it. You know, you're like not me, I'm just visual effects supervisor, right? So I have to do whatever they, you know, no, we're gonna go make this now. Okay, I guess I'll go make this now. So I never really felt that. I think Zach certainly weighed that, you know, when he was trying to decide whether or not to do it, because he's a fan of the material as well. He really wanted to do it right, and I think that since he's a fan of the material, you know, he thought, better let me have a chance to do it rather than have somebody else mess it up, right?
Dr. Manhattan, obviously one of the more stoic and mysterious characters in the film.
Stoic is a good word.
So, I mean, is creating a character like that presumably doesn't have a lot of different ranges of facial expression, is that somehow more easy or more challenging to do in CG?
I think it's more challenging because just from having experience doing CG characters that move around a lot, sometimes that's easier, you know, because they move through the frame and it's done. But in Dr. Manhattan's case, you're focused on every little thing his face does. And since we're taking the performance from Billy, whatever Billy decides to do goes into that character. And that's actually to its credit, is the performance does come through, and Billy did a lot with the little nuances that he had to bring to make that character come alive.
You want to ask me to go to dinner with you? You want to ask me to go to dinner with you? Like we used to. Like we used to.
in the process of translating the Watchmen from the graphic novel to the screen, what one scene, one element did you lose the most sleep over?
It's this sequence where Dr. Manhattan is like, he's at a talk show and he gets ambushed by these reporters, and then he goes to Mars and sort of contemplates his place in the universe, and sort of, because he experiences time in this non-linear way through a series of sort of flashbacks and forward, he brings himself up to date. And it was a sequence that was difficult both from a technical standpoint, because we had tons of Manhattan in it and we had virtual environments. The more vignette-y a sequence is, like say for instance, you're only going to shoot one shot. You know, they have a hard time saying, yeah, let's build a giant library, you know, for that one stupid montage shot you're probably going to cut out. But so this sequence was just difficult from a production standpoint because everything in the sequence was like a one-off. And it's a 12-minute sequence in the movie of just one shot after another. It's just risky also from a storytelling standpoint because Manhattan is sort of telling the story out of sequence. I mean, slightly in sequence, but he jumps around a little bit, which is one of my favorite sequences actually in the movie, but also at the time was just difficult because, he's like blowing up CG tanks, he's killing CG gangsters, he's just doing crazy stuff. There's nothing to use again, even like from a technological, like the tank we blew up, like that's the only time you see it, and so these guys had to build like a whole CG tank that kind of comes apart and then goes back together. But that's, for one shot, that's a bit of a deal,
God help us all. No.
The hardest thing with the graphic novel is there are a lot of little moments like that you want to try to get in, And again, to Zack's credit, I think he milked as many of those as he could and put it into the film.